now it's truly my pleasure to introduce General Treasurer Seth Magaziner.
Thank you, Priscilla. Hi, everybody. I just want to start by thanking Jonathan and Save the Bay for hosting us and also for their incredible work advancing a cleaner Rhode Island. It's a beautiful and windy day here. I want to thank Senator Don Oyer and Representative David Bennett, the chairs of the Senate and House Environmental Committees. Thank you to Sue Vanderbois from the Nature Conservancy and to Jonathan Berard from Clean Water Action for their work and their organization's leadership in making a cleaner Rhode Island as well. And especially thank you to Priscilla De La Cruz, President of the Environmental Council of Rhode Island, for her incredible work and her whole coalition's work for the Ocean State. Rhode Island is uniquely vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. The Narragansett Bay right behind us has risen 6 inches in the last 30 years. We have been battered by extreme weather events from Hurricane Sandy to the 2010 floods. And we have to be purposeful and urgent about the fact that climate change poses a risk to the families, the businesses, the quality of life that makes Rhode Island a wonderful place. And it is incumbent upon us not only to protect Rhode Islanders, but to take a leadership role nationally and globally in the fight against climate change. I have made the environment a priority as General Treasurer. When I took office in 2015, one of the very first pieces of legislation that I worked on was legislation to start new revolving funds at the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank to invest in energy efficiency and green energy projects across the state. Those funds that we started at the Infrastructure Bank in 2015 have invested now more than $120 million in energy efficiency and renewable energy projects across Rhode Island, creating nearly 2,000 green jobs. And it really runs the gamut. We did energy retrofits of the Senior Center and the library in East Providence. We converted streetlights to LEDs in Pawtucket. We helped small businesses get loans to put solar panels on their roofs to get clean energy for their businesses, from a manufacturer in Westerly to a print shop in Pawtucket to a dry cleaners in Wakefield. The list goes on and on. We've also, since the beginning, used our position as investors of the state's assets to push companies to do the right thing on climate change. We have filed or co-filed nearly a dozen shareholder proposals on climate and environmental issues at some of the largest companies in America, from Chevron to Walmart, to push them to improve their environmental behavior. We have joined with other investors in support of the Paris Accord and against the Trump administration's rollback of environmental policies. And we will continue in that vein to use our influence to help build a cleaner and more climate resilient world. Tomorrow is Earth Day, and the announcement that we are making today is that we are using our position, again, as investors through the state pension fund to lead on climate once again. In addition to focusing on the environment, one of my most important jobs as treasurer is to be a responsible steward of the state's pension system. The pension system is the primary source of retirement security for 60,000 people who have spent their lives serving the community: public school teachers, nurses, first responders. In 2016, we launched the Back to Basics investment strategy for the pension fund. Under Back to Basics, the pension fund has consistently outperformed most of our peers around the country. We've outperformed a majority of other public pension funds in our investment performance for 3 years in a row. Last year, we outperformed 87% of large public pension funds, and we have managed the system to an all-time high of more than $9.7 billion. And I want to recognize Andrew Junkin, our Chief Investment Officer, who does a terrific job, and thank him for his work. The announcement that we're making today in advance of Earth Day tomorrow is that since our administration began in 2015, we have reduced the exposure of the pension fund to the fossil fuel industry by nearly 40%, 37.5% to be exact. and we are going to get to a 50% reduction by this summer. Last month, the State Investment Commission approved a recommendation right when we get to the punchline. Last month, the State Investment Commission voted to end our investments in MLPs, which primarily consist of natural gas and oil pipelines. With that change, which is now being implemented, we will get to a 50% reduction in the pension fund's exposure to fossil fuels since the beginning of my administration. To be more specific about it, when we took office in 2015, roughly 6% of the pension fund was invested in companies that derived a majority of their revenue from producing fossil fuels, transmitting them, or servicing the fossil fuel industry. That number is now on pace to go from 6% to 3% roughly by this summer. We're doing this because it is a smart investment decision. Keep in mind, at the same time that we've seen this reduction, we have outperformed most of our peers and managed the pension fund to an all-time high. We've earned billions of dollars at the same time that this change has been made. And as treasurer and as an investment commission, as fiduciaries, we are obligated to make smart investment decisions for the pension fund. The data is clear that a smart investment means an investment that is forward-looking and that is rooted in what the economy of the future will look like. And it is clear that the economy of the future is an economy where energy is going to be derived from alternative sources, from clean sources, not from the large-scale burning of fossil fuels. Looking ahead, I mentioned earlier, we're on a track to get to a 50% reduction by this summer. I think that progress is going to continue. And it's going to continue because that's the way the world is headed and the way that the world has to head. When you're managing a $10 billion pension system, you don't turn on a dime, you can't turn on a dime. Change does take some time, but we've gotten halfway there in just 6.5 years. I believe that the fossil fuel exposure of the pension fund will be at or close to zero within the next decade. I don't believe that there's any other state pension fund that has made a statement like that so far, but it is clear to me that that's the direction that we're headed. And again, we're doing this because it's a smart investment choice for the members of the pension system. It's necessary in order for us to continue our strong performance. And it's also incumbent on Rhode Island, I think, to be in a leadership role on climate, given the vulnerabilities that we have. So with that, I'll pause. I want to thank all of the great environmental leaders who are here today, without whom Rhode Island would not be a leader. And I think we're all happy to take questions or engage in conversation. But I'll end by wishing everyone a happy Earth Day and expressing a lot of optimism for continued progress to come. So thank you all.